Hello. I hope you're doing well today. Tonight, I'm going to be reading more bedtime stories. Be continuing where we left off with our previous bedtime story stream. Reading from the Children's Treasury collection of favorite stories. Let's open it up. That's right. Last time we finished that story, so we'll be on to this one. The Birthday Pony. The Birthday Pony. There once was a boy named Philip who had a very happy life with his parents and two younger sisters. The family was very excited to be moving to a beautiful home near the town where the children would be attending school. Philip was looking forward to living in a new place and meeting new people. Philip enjoyed his new school and made friends easily. But he knew that he needed to make good grades because his father had promised him a pony if he did well in school. The boy received high marks in math and reading, but seemed to have some trouble with geography and history. It was hard for him to pay attention. He was too busy imagining all the places he would visit on his new pony. His mind would wander as he pictured himself galloping along the trails as a proud member of the Pony Express. Philip's father had warned him that ponies were a lot of work, but the boy was determined to prove to his father that he was up to the task. He worked hard and helped build a stable to convince his father that he should get a frisky pony for his next birthday. "May I please have a pony?" pleaded Philip. "We will see," said his father. "Don't you want something else for your birthday? What about a nice pair of roller skates?" "A pony is the only thing I want," said Philip. After that conversation, his father knew Philip had his heart set on owning a pony. He agreed to accompany him to many nearby stables so Philip could ride the ponies. But his father found fault with every pony the boy liked. Then a thought popped into Philip's mind. Perhaps his parents were going to surprise him with a pony for Christmas. After all, his sisters were getting fancy dolls, tea sets, and winter clothes. Philip knew he had been good all year and deserved a pony to call his own. Christmas morning dawned bright and clear. just as Philip expected. His sisters received dolls, clothes, and other things they had asked for. As they laughed and danced around the living room, the boy felt a pang of disappointment. He had already made a trip to the stable, and there was no frisky pony waiting for him. He dug deep into his stocking and found some money, candy, and a few other things, but they held no interest for him. He had his heart set on a pony, and he had not gotten one for Christmas. Winter turned to spring, and Philip remained blue. He started to give up hope that he would ever get a pony of his own. He began to envy anyone that owned a horse, a pony, or even an old mule. Philip had a very hard time watching them ride past his home. But something made him turn and look at the beautiful bay pony that came trotting down the street on a splendid spring day. Maybe it was its fine glossy coat, or perhaps it was seeing that the rider's legs were too long for the stirrups. The pony's spirited gait slowed as it drew near Philip's home. The tall man got off the little pony and called Philip over. Could it be that this beautiful pony was intended for him? With his eyes focused on the pony, Philip quickly approached the pair. He did not even notice that his family had gathered in the front of the house. The man looked at Philip and said, "Don't you want to try to ride? Don't you want to try your new pony on for size, son?" Philip did not answer. He simply hopped on the saddle and took the reins. When Philip returned from taking his pony for a ride around the neighborhood, his father was there to greet him. "Happy birthday!" they cried. "My birthday's not until July," Philip replied. His father looked at him with love in his eyes and said, "Yes, but we all saw how disappointed you were at Christmas, and we knew how much you wanted a pony of your own. So it is an early birthday present from all of us." Philip rode his new pony into the stable that he had prepared. His dream had finally come true. That's the end of The Birthday Pony. Let me go ahead and update. Update the stream information with the name of the story that we read. Birthday Pony. Save. And let's go on to the next story. Pinocchio. There once was an old man named Geppetto who had always wanted a son. One day, he decided to take matters into his own hands and carved a marvelous wooden puppet. He wanted his puppet to laugh, dance, play, and turn somersaults just as a real little boy would do. Geppetto set to work and whittled 2 feet, 2 legs, a body, 2 arms, and 2 hands. He crafted 2 twinkly eyes, an upturned mouth, and a tiny nose. But the nose did not stay little. As soon as Geppetto finished it, the nose began to grow and grow. "Such a marvelous nose," cried Geppetto. "I will call you Pinocchio." Pinocchio turned and winked at the old man. Pinocchio was every bit the boy Geppetto had hoped for, even though he was only made of wood. But just as little boys do, Pinocchio always managed to get into trouble of some sort. One day, Geppetto gave him a coin to buy a school book. Pinocchio headed for the bookshop until he saw a puppet show. He used the coin to buy a ticket to the show. Seeing other wooden puppets, Pinocchio jumped on the stage and began acting foolishly. The angry puppet master told Pinocchio he was going to turn him into firewood. Pinocchio apologized to the man. He cried because his money was gone, and the puppet master knew the boy was truly sorry. He gave Pinocchio 5 coins and sent him to buy his school book. With the 5 coins jingling in his pocket, Pinocchio came upon a blind cat and a lame fox standing by the side of the road. They told him he should bury his coins so he could grow even more money. Thinking this would help him buy nice things for Geppetto, Pinocchio foolishly agreed. When he returned to check if his money tree had sprouted yet, his 5 coins were gone. Pinocchio cried and cried. He had been a bad boy and should have listened to Geppetto. He looked up and saw a beautiful fairy with golden hair hovering above him. "Pinocchio, if you really wanted to be a good boy, you must obey Geppetto and go to school. If you do this, then I will help you," said the fairy. Pinocchio went home to Geppetto and told him he had been at school. Because he had lied, his nose began to grow. Pinocchio promised to stop telling lies and attend school. But when Pinocchio left for school the next day, he got into trouble again. He ran into a crowd of rough boys. They told him to join them at Playland, where children could do whatever they wanted. Pinocchio stayed at Playland for an entire year. One day, he woke up wanting some oats and hay. Because he had been so foolish, Pinocchio had become a donkey. The fairy showed Pinocchio. The fairy saw Pinocchio and swept down to help him. She told him she could turn him into a puppet again, but could not take him home. Geppetto was missing. The fairy told Pinocchio that Geppetto had spent the whole year searching for him, but Geppetto's boat had disappeared into the sea. Pinocchio told the fairy that he would find Geppetto and never disappoint his father again. Pinocchio traveled far and wide, looking for Geppetto. One day, he saw a strange shape on the shore. He ran down towards it before he realized it was a sleeping whale. The whale yawned and swallowed him up. Inside the whale, Pinocchio heard a familiar voice. It was Geppetto. The two hugged until the whale hiccuped, sending them into the air, into the water. The two hugged until the whale hiccuped, sending them into the water. Pinocchio knew that Geppetto could not swim. With great effort, he saved the old man. After his brave deed, the fairy knew that Pinocchio had a good heart and should be forgiven. As a reward, she turned him from a puppet into a little boy. Geppetto finally had a real son. And that is, let's see, the end of Pinocchio. So I will update information again. We'll add Pinocchio onto our list of stories read. Pinocchio. And we'll go on to the next story. The Magic Bones. This is the tale of a boy who lived in a hot, dry country. He got sick one day, and his mean older brother left him under a tree. The boy was all alone. But made a home there. He built a box to catch food. One day, he found a little old man inside the box. The man gave the boy magic bones so he could make a wish. The boy threw the magic bones, and a fruit tree shot up. He ate heartily. The old man returned and told the boy he would leave the magic bones with him so he could make a wish any time. The boy picked up the bones and threw them in the field. He wished for a large farming village with plenty of food to eat. The village appeared instantly, and the boy became its chief. The boy's brothers heard about this miracle and came to see the chief for food. He told them he was their brother and gave them something to eat. After they had their fill of food, the older brothers apologized to the boy. He forgave them and invited his brothers to live in his village. But the boy's brothers soon became jealous. They thought that they should rule a village. They thought they should rule a village because they were older. They stole the magic bones and made their brother's village disappear. Then they wished for a village of their own. The boy cried when he saw what his brothers had done. A rat and a crow came to him. They said they would help him find the magic bones. The rat and the hawk sped to the brothers' village. The rat took the bones from their home. The hawk swooped down to catch the rat. The brothers believed the hawk would eat the rat, but the hawk and the rat flew back to the boy and returned the magic bones. He rewarded them by wishing for juicy berries and a plump chicken. Then the boy threw the magic bones and asked for the return of his village. He also wished that his brothers disappeared forever. The village came back to life, and his brothers were never seen again. And that is the end of the story of the Magic Bones. All right. Information is updated. The story that we just read. And we'll move on to the next story. The Honest Woodcutter. There once was a poor woodcutter who lived with his family in a forest far from town. The family often wondered what it would be like to have everything they wanted. The woodcutter tried very hard to provide for his family and wished he could give them more. The woodcutter headed out to the oldest part of the forest, where the trees grew tall and thick. He sharpened his axe and went to work. With each swing of his axe, the woodcutter felt he was helping his family. The harder he worked, the more he could provide. He would have to cut down many trees to reach his goal. But his axe was sharp and his strikes were swift. One day, his family would have a better home to live in, and he would be able to give his wife and children everything they wanted. Every afternoon, the woodcutter would sit by the river to catch his breath, eat lunch, and have a cool drink. One day, he was very thirsty. He ran to the river for some water and did not see a rock in his path. The woodcutter tripped, and his axe slipped into the rushing river. "Oh no!" cried the woodcutter. The woodcutter looked into the river, hoping to see his axe, but it was no use. The axe was gone. The woodcutter wondered how he would provide for his beloved family. Suddenly, the woodcutter heard a bubbling sound and saw the river rising. A strange figure appeared. It was a water sprite. This fairy of the river had come to help the woodcutter. "Why are you sad?" asked the water sprite. "I lost my axe, and now I cannot provide for my family," replied the woodcutter. "Don't worry, I will help you find your axe," said the water sprite. The surprised woodcutter watched as the river sprite splashed back into the rushing river. The water sprite soon resurfaced. He was holding a beautiful axe. It was solid silver and certainly worth a lot of money, but it did not belong to the woodcutter. "That is a sharp and powerful axe," said the woodcutter, "but it is not mine." "Are you sure?" asked the water sprite. "Yes, I am certain. This silver axe does not belong to me," replied the woodcutter. The water sprite nodded and dove back into the depths of the rushing river. The woodcutter watched as the water foamed and swirled. Soon the water sprite returned with a gleaming axe, more magnificent than the last. It was made of solid gold. "This must be your axe," said the water sprite. The woodcutter held the amazing axe for a moment. This axe could make him very rich, and could give his family anything they could ever want. But the woodcutter could not take something that was not his. He slowly handed the golden axe back to the water sprite. This time, the water sprite. The water sprite headed down into the river for a third time. When he returned, he held another axe. "That is my axe!" exclaimed the woodcutter. The water sprite shook his head. "Are you sure you want this axe? The other two are so much finer and worth much more." But the gold and silver axes do not belong to me," replied the woodcutter. The water sprite smiled and said, "These axes belong to me, but I am going to give them to you in return for your honesty." The woodcutter was humbled to be rewarded so greatly just for telling the truth. Overjoyed, the woodcutter thanked the water sprite and watched him disappear back into the water, never to be seen again. The woodcutter was very happy to have all 3 axes. He left the forest and headed into town. He would keep his old axe and try to sell the silver and gold ones. The shopkeeper marveled at the axes. He gave the woodcutter a large sum of money for them. The woodcutter went home with a joyful spring in his step and a very happy heart. He could not wait to share the good news with his family. The woodcutter could finally make all their wishes and dreams come true. The woodcutter's family was so glad to hear that they would have money to buy everything they wanted. But more than that, they were proud he had told the truth. The woodcutter's honesty had been worth its weight in silver and gold. And that's the end of The Honest Woodcutter. We'll update the description of the stream with this story. The Honest There's a space in there. All right. On to the next story. The Secret Garden. Once there was a girl named Mary who lived in India. When she was 9, a tragic thing happened. She woke one day to find that she was all alone. A soldier came and told her that a terrible disease had struck her entire family. With no one left to care for her, Mary was sent to live in England with her uncle. When Mary arrived in England, her uncle's housekeeper, Miss Medlock, met her at the train station. As they traveled through the countryside, Miss Medlock told Mary about her new home. Mrs. Medlock also explained that Mary's uncle, Mr. Archibald Craven, had lost his beloved wife many years ago and did not care for other people's company. Mary blinked away a tear and stared out at the cold, gray landscape. After living in sunny India, Mary did not think she would enjoy rainy, lonely England. The next morning, Mary awoke and was greeted by a maid named Martha. Mary stretched and looked out the window. "What is it?" she asked, pointing to the gently rolling landscape. "That's the moor," said Martha. "It is covered with so many sweet-smelling things." Martha urged Mary to go out and explore the moors and gardens. She added, "One of the gardens is locked up. Mr. Craven closed it when his wife died, and he doesn't allow anyone inside. He locked the door and buried the key ages ago." Mary ran outside to explore the green lawns, high walls, and winding walkways of the gardens. Ivory-covered doors led from one garden to the next. As she stepped into the second garden, she looked for a door leading to the mysterious garden Martha had told her about, but she could not find it. Then Mary saw a gardener gazing up at a little robin in an adjacent garden. She asked him about the secret garden. Just then, the little robin flew towards Mary. "I think you have a friend," said the gardener. It rained the next day, so Mary could not play outside. She decided that she would explore the house and look for her uncle's library. Mary returned to her room when she heard a fretful crying sound. She put her hand on the tapestry near her. The tapestry gave way and revealed a secret doorway. Mary was about to open the door when she saw Mrs. Medlock. "What are you doing?" asked Miss Medlock. "I heard someone crying," replied Mary. "Don't be silly," said Mrs. Medlock. The next day dawned bright and clear as Mary went outside to the garden. Spring was in the air, and the earth was beginning to come alive. Suddenly, Mary heard the rustle of little wings. The robin had come to see her. He chirped and pecked at the ground as Mary followed him through the gardens. When they came to a bare flower bed, the robin stopped to dig in the freshly tilled soil. Mary looked down and saw an old brass key ring. She held it in her hand and wondered if she had found the key to the secret garden. With the key in her hand, Mary walked along the garden wall, hoping to find a door in the ivory. She decided to carry the key with her everywhere, so if she found the door, she would be ready. One morning, the robin flew over to greet Mary. Then he fluttered to the top of the ivory-covered wall and shrilled loudly. At that very moment, something magical happened. A gust of wind rushed down the walkway and parted the ivory, revealing a rusty round knob. Mary knew it must be the door to the secret garden. Mary pushed the leaves aside and found the lock. After taking a deep breath, she turned the key, opened the door, and stepped inside. At last, she was standing inside the secret garden. It was by far the sweetest, most mysterious place anyone could ever imagine. How still it is, Mary whispered. I am the first person here in many years. Mary bent down and began clearing away the tangled weeds and thick brown grass. She wanted to bring the desolate garden back to life. One day, as Mary was heading out to tend her garden, she heard a peculiar whistling sound. She stopped and found a boy playing music for some small animals. It was Martha's brother, Dickon. Mary had never played with boys before, so she was rather shy. Mary finally summoned up the courage to tell Dickon about her secret garden. His eyes got rounder, and he asked Mary to see it. Mary took his hand and led him to the place she loved so much. Dickon loved the garden as much as Mary did. They worked together every sunny day. One morning, Martha told Mary that her uncle Archibald wanted to see her. Mary was nervous for fear he would scold her for getting dirty or being in the secret garden. She reluctantly went to the study to meet her uncle. "Is there anything you want?" he asked. "May I have a bit of earth to plant some seeds and grow things?" Mary replied. "Of course. Take it from wherever you like," said Uncle Archibald. Mary thanked him and ran back to the garden. That night, Mary heard the same crying sound she heard before. She got dressed and crept down the hall. She pushed open the door. There, lying on the bed, was a boy crying fretfully. Mary wondered if she was dreaming. "Are you a ghost?" she asked. "No, I am Colin Craven," the boy replied. "Mr. Craven is my father." Mary asked Colin why he did not go outside and play in the gardens. He said he was sick and got tired very easily. After their first encounter, Mary visited Colin often. The lonely boy seemed to enjoy the lively girl's company. When it rained, they would spend the entire day together. Mary told Colin about Dickon and how he had a way with animals. Then she told Colin about their secret garden. "You must come to see it," said Mary. "The doctors think it's best I stay indoors and get plenty of rest," replied Colin. "But don't you think that being out in the fresh air would make you feel better?" asked Mary. One morning, the rain stopped, and the sun shone through Mary's window. She put on her galoshes and ran out to the garden. When she opened the door, she found Dickon working in the beautiful, blooming garden. Later that evening, Mary went to Colin's room to tell him about the garden, but Colin was very upset that Mary had played all day with Dickon. He wanted Mary to spend more time with him. "I had hoped that my stories of the garden would make you feel better," said Mary. The next morning, Dickon came to visit with a crow, 2 squirrels, a lamb, and a fox cub. Colin was wide-eyed. He had never seen animals or talked to another boy in his entire life. Dickon put Colin at ease when he placed the newborn lamb in his lap. Mary, Dickon, and Colin were soon chattering excitedly and talking about all the fun they would have in the secret garden filled with plants and flowers. "I can't wait to visit the garden," said Colin. Their stories were making him feel better already. Mary and Dickon brought Colin to the secret garden. It was the best medicine anyone could ask for. Colin loved seeing all the living things and feeling the warm sun on his face. He spent every day in the garden with Mary and Dickon. Colin's father returned from a long trip and found his son happily playing outdoors. His wife's garden was alive and thriving again. Not only had it helped a sick boy get better, it brought Mary, Dickon, and Colin together. Their friendship continued to blossom as the garden flourished. And that's the end of The Secret Garden. One seemed to be a bit longer than the other ones. Maybe one day I'll read the full version of this story. I think I've got it somewhere. I remember watching an old movie about the secret garden when I was young. I have not seen it in a very long time. The Secret Garden. All right. Should we read another one? I think we can. We'll read another one out of this book tonight. Let's see. The next story is The Queen Bee. Three brothers once were traveling across the land when they came to an anthill. The 2 younger brothers wanted to step on it, but their big brother Humble would not allow them to disturb the busy ants. Next they came to a lake where the younger brothers wanted to make a supper of duck soup. Humble would not allow his brothers to cause any harm to the little ducks. Later they came to a beehive full of thick, sweet honey. The younger brothers wanted to light a fire beneath the hive so they could have some honey, but Humble told them to leave the bees alone. Finally, the brothers came to a castle. As they drew near, they noticed that something was wrong. A castle is usually a busy place, with people scurrying about, but this castle was eerily quiet. "This castle must be under a spell," declared Humble. Yes, said a guard. It will be broken only when one completes 3 tasks. What are the tasks? Asked Humble. First, you must find 3 princesses. First, you must find 3 princesses' pearls, replied the guard. Princesses. Oh, plural princesses. Or owned by princess? I don't know, replied the guard. There are 1,000 of them scattered in the forest. The youngest brother thought this would be easy, but he only found 100 pearls. And was turned to stone. What? This is a... I'm gonna go back. First, you must find the 3 princesses' pearls, replied the guard. There are 1,000 of them scattered in the forest. The youngest brother thought this would be easy, but he only found 100 pearls and was turned to stone. The middle brother thought he was smart enough to break the spell, and he failed and was turned to stone. Humble was determined to break the spell. He began collecting pearls at once, but he only found a few. Feeling very sad, Humble began to cry. But then he heard a rustling sound. Thousands of ants were collecting pearls for the brother who had saved them. After all the princess's pearls had been collected, Humble received his second task. He was told to fetch a key from the bottom of the lake. There, Humble saw the same ducks his brothers had tried to catch. They retrieved the key for the brother who had set them free. Humble returned to the castle with the key and received his third task. He was told that he must determine which of the 3 sleeping princesses had eaten a honey cookie. Luckily for Humble, the queen bee he had saved was there to help. The queen bee quickly buzzed around and helped Humble choose the correct princess. The spell was broken. The princesses awoke, and Humble's brothers were changed back from stone. Everyone in the kingdom rejoiced when Humble married the most beautiful princess. Thanks to his kindness, he had everything he ever wanted. And that's the end of the Queen Bee. Alright, we'll add this to our list of stories. I got a little confused there. I think I figured it out. They needed to find all of the princess's pearls. So there were 3 princesses. They needed to find all of their pearls. I read it as they needed to find 3 pearls. Like, well, that can't be hard if there's thousands of them in the forest. Right? But then the one brother was turned to stone after only finding 1,000. I was confused. Alright. Save that. Now I think that's going to be the end for the night. Yes, unfortunately, I got a little start late this evening on bedtime stories. And it is past my bedtime. So, I'm going to thank you for reading some stories with me. And I hope that you sleep very well tonight. All right. Until next time, goodbye and good night.